Alright, and we're back with more double knee ear tutorials. So today we're gonna take the atomic cap that we learned in the last video and apply it to four-poi. So to get started with that, the first thing you'll need to be able to do is make sure that you can do butterfly in both hands. And the first step to that is a thing that I call the kick up. And kick up is a really powerful practice tool to start getting yourself into a meteor drive style with as little energy as possible. And so what that would look like for butterfly is moving both of them in same time, same direction, and then letting the pinky side pendulum while the index side creates a beat, like so, and then lifting up, and you're in butterfly. So you can use this same kick up idea to go and find all of the most easy ways to get yourself into each of the different modes. It's like being able to just pop quickly into each direction of butterfly, being able to pop into one beat weaves, being able to pop into gunflowers, like any of those kinds of things. Like the faster that you can get to those modes, the better your muscle memory will understand for later. So with that said, now that we have both of our meteors in butterfly, and we've definitely practiced that, of course, the goal is to get these into a mesh, and we call that mesh the Dragonfly. This is the Dragonfly. And the way that this works is that all of the pieces are moving in the correct orientation to one another to allow them to pass by each other. And the way we know what orientation that they're in is by giving the direction of the meteor, or of each meteor in relation to each other, a name. So even though my one meteor in one hand has a timing and direction for itself, like this one is in same time, opposite direction, just to itself, I can have a same time, opposite direction relationship with the other hand as well. But the relationship between the two of them is what we're actually going to call our Dragonfly. And the way that we dictate that is off of the direction of the index. So in this case, I'm using an inwards op Dragonfly as they come toward my midline, and the opposite of that would be an outwards op Dragonfly. And then we have, of course, a to your left, to the left, and we have a to the right. And these are our four basic direction sets of Dragonfly for opposite direction meteor spinning. You may find that the outwards opposite is a more comfortable butterfly direction for you, and that's totally fine. Everything I'm about to share, it doesn't matter which direction that we choose, because the direction will only matter insofar as long as you know you have the right direction of Dragonfly. So the way Dragonfly works is that we want to set up what's known as a nexus. And the nexus is the space between our hands. And so if my hands are too close together, the tethers start to collide, or start to tangle over one another, and if my hands are too far apart, then the heads will start to collide. So by choosing a spot that's just the right amount apart, and we'll be able to get all of the ropes to pass right by each other. So pick your distance for your hand, and then just like when you were learning two-poi butterflies way back in the day, having one hand just slightly above the other one will go a really long way. So I've got my hands just slightly up from or whatever hand is going to be on top is just slightly above the other one. And so now we're going to practice getting into it. And here's where that wonderful atomic cap we practiced earlier is going to become helpful. So if I can do the atomic cap in one hand, and I can do the atomic cap in the other hand, then our first goal is to jump into the Dragonfly, and we're going to move both of them into the middle together. Excellent. And so the setup that we're looking for here is pinky, pinky, index, index. And so the first pinky is the first index, and then you'll have a setup like this, where if you imagine these as teeth of gears, then this is the setup that they're going to be moving past each other in. Cool. So we've got our Dragonfly like this, and so the this same Dragonfly also works exactly the same way if we were to cross our hands like this. Even though the direction set is just a little different, the spacing is still the same. As long as this hand is the one above, then this pinky still goes first, and then this pinky still happens second. And then all the same rules apply. Now, some quirks and some fun parts about Dragonfly is that the plane does not matter. I repeat, the plane doesn't matter. And so that means that I can put this through wall versus, or I could put this in, my indexes in, one in wall and one in wheel. I could throw one of them into floor plane. I could move into different orientations and even push so far into saying that like, oh, here's the 1-beat weave version of this same direction of Dragonfly. And I can keep rotating and keep rotating. I could even flip my hands all the way over to the point when I'm doing a Dragonfly like this. This one's really difficult, but worth practicing. By the way, pinky drive on all of your butterflies is definitely going to be something you're going to want on a later date. The point is that Dragonfly works. It is a way of very simply saying, aha, this is the direction that my butterflies are going relative to one another, and then being able to really look at that. So once you have the Dragonfly, once you're here, now for some drills to practice. You can use the atomic cap to pop in and out. You can use the atomic cap to lift and stack them. Some people would want to call this a thread the needle, but I think that there is a more real thread the needle for four-poi that we'll get to later. And then you can stack them in, stack them out, put them together, and then move them through the atomic cap together. You can also use the same time hands to move them around as flowers. And then even more so and even better is that when you split them apart, you can stack them one on top of the other this way and then cross all the way into the cross arm version. And you can use that to get to all of your flowers like this. Cool. That about sums up the opposite direction Dragonfly for now. We'll have plenty more to talk about with it later. But I do want to cover the same direction Dragonfly just real quick. So the same direction Dragonfly is really easy from this first perspective, but as soon as we split them apart from one another, we have to start taking some things into account. And so, as you'll see, I have to make sure that the yellow one and the blue one are in a congruent atomic orientation. Otherwise, they're going to collide and tangle. So, and as you'll see, I'm about to move the yellow one to the front of the blue, and they collide. So, the goal is to always make sure that you're setting up this relationship of the index and the pinky relationship between the two to make sure that they're congruent. And if you want to move the bottom one in front of the other one, it has to come over, up, and in front. And it's almost like they both switch position across this wheel plane diagonal, right? Cool. Okay, so with that being said, as long as I'm paying attention to where this setup has to go, it actually makes it so that working through flowers like this is fairly easy, as long as I make sure that I know which which orientation I have to be in when they stack. Cool. Dragonfly.